Hi, my name is Fred Sena. I will teach you 3D Studio Max. I will assume that you're completely beginner and you never saw the software before. So when you open this for the first time, that's what you see. Here it's the viewport where your 3D objects are created and manipulated. Here on the side we have the Scene Explorer where the objects are listed here on the side. On the other side you have the command panel where we create the objects, lights, cameras, and so on. Down here we have the viewport control. Here we have the timeline control to play, pause. This is the timeline for animation. On the very top, the most used buttons and commands. Whenever you click in this viewport, it will be activated. For example, you click on this one, the perspective, and will expand or minimize, right? So this is the perspective, this is the front view, top view, you can see here left, and all of them you can modify. So you click and see the options. So for example, you can turn this the top view, but most of the time we work in perspective. Worth to mention that whenever you see those dotted lines, means that you can modify the location, click and drag, and you can modify the placement of them. In case you have a second monitor or something like that, you can change it. In case you get it lost by accident, you can just come to customize, show UI. This is the case of the command panel, and then you click and drag to the corner, customize, show explorer, our scene explorer, and there you go. It's back to the beginning. Something that happened to me before was this case, and I was lost. I didn't know what did I click, what shortcut was that, and this is the Ctrl-Alt-X. You enter in the expert mode. So let's go on and create an object. So here in this panel, in geometry, let's create a box to understand how to navigate in 3D. For the creation, you click the object that you want, in this case the box, click, drag, release, and click again. The sequence will be different for each object, and to navigate, to move around like that, you click the middle button of your mouse. To rotate, you press Alt and the middle button, so now you rotate around. And to zoom, either you scroll, so you can zoom in or zoom out, or you can press Ctrl Alt and press the middle button, so you have more precise zoom. Now that you know how to rotate, zoom, and move, let's see how to manipulate the object itself. So here on the top you have the most used ones for manipulation, where we can move the object. So you have the three axes, X, Y, and Z. So you move object in each direction. And you can also do that in different viewports. So if you click, you activate the viewport, but you lose the selection of the object. But if you click in the new viewport with the middle button mouse, you activate the viewport without losing the selection, and then you can manipulate it. Many of the times we want to work in a larger viewport. For that, we use Alt-W in the activated viewport, or click here, but it's something that we use so often that's more convenient to use as a shortcut, so take a note of this one. So here we rotate the viewport, remember Alt middle button, Ctrl Alt middle button, and just mid the button. Let's create other objects in the scene. For example, sphere. You can create this. It will start from the middle of it, unless that you check base to pivot. And then we start from the base. We have this option auto grid, where it will create objects on the top of the other objects. You can try that as well. How to select the object? You just click on them. You have this select object, but whenever you have any other option and just click on it, it will select. Or we can select it by dragging, and you have this box for selection. And that's where this button will tell you what mode it will select. Here, let's see from the top, again Alt W to minimize, maximize. If I select the box here, it will select everything. Even if it's just half, just little touching the object, it will select. But if it's like that, the object needs to be within the box, right? So if just touching will not select, but once it's inside the box, it will be selected. Let's delete all of it. To select everything is Ctrl A. Here you see the Scene Explorer. You can also select from here. And press delete. Let's create again one box. Now we already know how to rotate, zoom in, zoom out, but let's say that by accident your object is lost somewhere. You just press Z, it will bring to your scene. We'll zoom extend. And let's say that you have other box, other objects, and you press just Z without selecting, it will bring all of them to your screen. Unless that you have one selected and press Z, it will bring that specific one. But if you want to find the other ones, just unselect, click in the scene, press Z, and you have all of them. To select more than one object, you press Ctrl, and then you have them selected. Also work here in the Scene Explorer. So let's delete them. 2, click in the box, zoom. Now let's practice a little bit the moving, rotating, and scaling of the object. For that is also very important, very often used shortcuts is W to move, rotate is E, and to scale is R. So those are 3 that you use so often that you save tons of time by just using the shortcuts. Let's play here with the moving. Again, you can move in the all axis, or in the gizmo you can see that you have these squares that whenever you select them, you move in 2 axes at the same time. In rotate, or E, you also have you get a different gizmo, and then you can rotate in one axis, the other, and this most outside circle is related to the view. It's like facing to you. So it's not one particular axis, X, Y, or Z, but the viewer axis. And you have the scale. Let's reset this. Ctrl Z, just undo everything. And now you have the scale. And the scale also apply the same. If you select the middle, you scale all of it at once. Or you can select the particular axis, like X, Z, Y, or in two in combination. So this keeps the Z constant, but moving X and Y. How to reset in the case of if you want to place a very precise number for rescaling, and also applies the same for moving or rotate. If you left click, you're gonna see this menu, in this case for moving. So you can put here the values 0, 0, 0, for example, go to the origin of the scene. Rotation, let's rotate here, and if we left click, you're gonna have the transformation type here, and you can put precise numbers if you need, or if you just want to reset. And also the scale, you see either you scale all of it or particular axis 100%. So now we're back to the original size. Talking about the size, in the object creation you have some parameters, and it's good for you to explore a little bit of it. I will not go through all of them because there's so many, but to understand the workflow, you can go to the modify panel, and each object has its own parameters. In the case of the box, we have the length, width, and height. So you can type precise numbers. This you're gonna see later. This is about the number of the segments of the objects, the resolution. For example, the sphere. Let's create one sphere here, click and drag. And let's see the parameters. So you go here to the modify panel. You have the sphere and the number of the radius. So it's the size of it, the number of the segments. Hemisphere is just half of it, or you can slice. Now that we already know how to create and move around the scene, let's copy objects. Alt W, I create a little box here, and with the move object, I can press Shift and drag in a particular axis, and I will copy it. And I press OK. Now we have a copy of that object. Select both of them and drag in the other axis. We have another copy, and so on. Let's say now that we have 4 copies of that, we have more of them. Okay, so that also works for rotation. Let's to make it more obvious. And for rotation, I can press Shift and drag, and if I say one copy, will stay there, Ctrl Z, or if I say 6 copies, it will copy with that increment of the angle that I put there. Talking about angle, that's one of very important commands to enable, that it will give you very precise angles. And to modify what degree do you want, you left click and you select what angle do you want. So let's say 30 degrees, and you select, it will rotate 30 degrees per time. So let's back to 5, close. That's how you rotate, create object. Let's see other options that we see in the menu here. Let's say that I will copy this 7 times, and then later I realize that I want them smaller or different parameters. Then should have go one by one. That's not very productive. But if I know that this is an option to modify the size and so on, I select, copy, let's say 10, and we have a copy instance. Those are the most important ones. So what we created before was just a copy. But if you create an instance, that means that this is a copy of the parameters for now and on. So every time that I modify, I had one box here before. That was not an instance. So every time that I modify the parameter of that object, they will also modify. But it's just the parameter of the object itself, not the location. So they can be anywhere, right? That it will copy the parameter of the object itself. Let's say, for example, that this particular one should keep different from the others. So that's when you click in this make unique, only this one. Unless that you select many and also repeat this, of course. This particular one is totally independent of the others, but the others stay instance. By now you should be comfortable inside 3D Studio Max. There is a lot to learn, but you're gonna learn by doing, and the scene that you see now is what you're going to create from now on. So let's start with unit setup, customize unit setup. You're gonna select metric, by default is generic metric. In system unit setup, you select 1 unit is equal 1 centimeter. Just to make sure the unit is right. Plane, let's create a plane for the floor. Go in modify, create 1 meter, M will automatically convert to centimeter by 1 meter. Let's create now a box for a table. Go to modify, and let's create the table 1 meter by 60 centimeter by 3 centimeters. Let's make this floor bigger. And the table, let's move up, left click here and put 60 centimeters. Select cylinder to create the legs. Shift drag instance. Shift drag instance again. Now that is too thick, we can reduce the radius. Now let's create a plane to put at the top of the table. So we select, move a little bit up, press F4 to see the wireframe, go to modify panel and add 100 segments for the length and width. And now in the modify list, we select cloth. You can just stop typing it. And this is the box. We can rename it, left click, rename. Let's put the name table box. Left click, the plane, rename table cloth. So let's open object properties. We already have tablecloths on it. Let's add the table box. In tablecloth, we select cloth and let's select flannel. Table box will be a collision object. This is a simulation that we are running. So now we start simulate. When you think it's okay, you can just press cancel instead of to wait all of it. Let's press F4 again. And to give some thickness, we can add the modifier shell. Let's add 0.2 centimeters. And now we add a turbo smooth. If you press F4, you see what's happening. And you can turn on and off those eyes to enable, disable. Now let's put something on top of the table. In the line, in the shapes, you have like geometry. Now let's go to the shape and create a line. Go here to the side and let's draw something similar to a bottle. Just keep clicking and dragging. You're gonna get the hang of it. And just create half of it. Just a line. And now in the modify list, we put a modifier called lathe. And we click in minimal. And you can adjust by going down in line. Press show the end result. Go here in vertex. And you can start modifying it. In lathe, you can flip normals if that happened with you. Let's add again a shell modifier. And again a turbo smooth. Like that. Move down to the table. And let's put a wall on this corner. Move up. Press F4. Let's put so that's my wall. And we're going to add edit poly. Because now we're gonna edit the polygons on that wall. Polygon here. And when you click, you select it. Now that you select those, you press Shift and drag and it will cut. This only happened in 3D Studio Max 2022. Let's make modeling very easy. I want to put something on the side of this wall, and for that we don't have to create everything inside 3D Studio Max. Instead, we can go, for example, in Sketchfab, I put sculpture. I want to put this there. So I go down, download 3D model. The format I will choose OBJ. File, import. Now we can move it, scale, rotate precise with this, so I can rotate 90 degrees. press Shift, drag, make a copy. And now let's go to materials. So if you press M or you select this material editor, shortcut M, you can see either this material editor or you can see this one. To make things simple, let's go to the mode, compact one, and here you have the material of your scene. So let's put this for the floor, so you can either select and click this button, assign material to selection. Let's change the color, roughness 1, or what you can do is click, drag and release on the top of object that you want. Now for the cloth, let's change the appearance by clicking here and select checker. And in tiling we put 10 by 10, 20 by 20. Here we select the color that you want. For the sculpture, you can click, select both, assign material. You also have some presets here. So you can select that as a copper. For the legs, we can just change the material here. Just the color is not exactly the material. Now let's create a light. In create tab, you go to light. By default it's photometric, but we go to R node. In R node, go to the top view, click R node light and just click. When you click, it creates a light here, and then you can drag up, but you cannot see much happening because this will render. But you can make a preview by clicking standard active shade using R node. Now it's very dark, so with the light selected, you go to modify panel, go down here and you can change those parameters, intensity and exposure. And for now you can play more with your scene. Here I go to editable poly. I go to the left view in my case, drag, select those vertex and just drag. And from the other side, select, drag as well. For the light, we can also copy, so I can select here, Shift, and to the side is an instance. This active shade is very intensive for your computer, so unless that you want to check the light, as we now see that's kind of okay. So I can turn off to work faster. So what I want to make now is a camera. So in panel creation, go to cameras. You can either select the camera, click and drag, and you create a camera. And then middle button to select the viewport, remember. So now I'm in perspective and I press C, it will change to my camera view. And here, when I move my view, actually I'm moving the camera. But it behaves a little bit different when you are in perspective. So for rotate the camera, you actually need to come here, orbit camera. Now you can position it. You remember to turn on or off the angle snap. Or you can move the camera itself. Other way to create a camera, if you press P, you back to perspective. Remember, C, go back to the camera, and P, perspective. And you can see here. You can select from here the camera that you want or the view. Other way to create a camera, let's say that you want exactly this position. And you press Ctrl, I move the view, Ctrl C, it automatically put a camera in that perspective and change to that camera. Now let's render. To render, you press F10 or you press this button. That's where you have your settings for the final image. Here I select HDTV, or you can put the parameters that you want. And if you press simple render, it will render the image that you created. And you need to tweak with the lights, for example. Remember, that was just a preview. But now we can tweak based on the final image. So I select the lights and change a little bit. The render will respect what viewport that you are at, and you can see here, view to render. If you're gonna always render in the camera, you can lock it to the camera, so it doesn't matter where you go. So let's render. Since we made a simulation of the cloth on the top of the table, let's check how to render an animation. In the render setup, or F10, you select your parameters, and the render output, you select files, select your folder, the name, and the extension. And here you select the segment. Active segments 0 to 100, that means until here to the 0, but our simulation goes until 50, let's say. So I can select here 50. And now it will render frame by frame. I want to make just a short preview, so I'll put, and let's render it. In the dialog, it will show the progress and the time estimated to render all the scene. Finish the render, and you close, and you, case that you want to see again, you go rendering, render framed window, so you get back the last render window. From here, we save automatically, but in case you render only one image, you can just select save image and select the folder that you want. Let's go back and animate a camera. So I want to go in this position. You can click frame 0, auto key, go to the frame that you want, and move the camera. So this will create those keyframes, and you can preview it. And the camera has also a target, so you can animate that as well. You can select, delete the keyframe that you choose. This time let's go to frame 75. Click Auto key again to avoid messing up. F10, let's select all the file. And let's render. So this was a basic introduction to 3D Studio Max. There is a lot to learn more. Thank you very much, and I see you next one.